Hi, my name is Rachelle Smith, entrepreneur, professional speaker, and author. Last time, talked about the importance and the power of body language. It is so important that we recognize the sometimes conscious and unconscious cues and signals that others give off constantly. And we also need to be aware of our own body language and what we are communicating because not body language is a huge part of nonverbal communication. It's very important to, yes, listen to what people say, but as I told you last time, body language does not lie. It's amazing. It can certainly reveal the true thoughts of a person. This time, I actually wanted to wrap up this series on body language by highlighting the importance of patterns. When it comes to body language, patterns are so important. Whether you're recognizing if you're going into a new situation perhaps that you've never kind of entered before, or you're dealing with a situation that you've dealt with for a long time, we all recognize patterns. And particularly when there's a deviation in patterns. And I could sit here and talk for hours about body language and give you various examples. And of course, there's books on the subject. You can get DVDs, there's webinar and webcasts. There's so many opportunities for you to learn kind of more in-depth detail on body language. But what I want to do is encourage you today is really pay attention to patterns. Patterns. Things that are kind of legitimate as well as things that may not be legitimate. And I'm just saying, when you think about body language, perhaps you're walking into a situation that you've never been in before. And it could be walking even to like a convenience store, or maybe even, a class for the first time, if you're in college or high school, or even any type of professional training and development seminar you may be attending. Read, watch, and listen. Those are your three cues if you ever want to be in a position to really succinctly and with great discretion and discernment evaluate situations and evaluate people and look for patterns. Because we all know if something happens one time, okay, it could be a fluke, it could just be, kind of one-off type thing, but patterns happen consistently. When something happens twice, when something happens 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in any arena of life, there is a pattern established that you can clearly see and detect. Because some people are very easy to read, some people aren't very easy to read. I have a reputation for being a very easy person to read. In fact, when I was in grad school at Northwestern, I'll never forget, one of my professors told me, Rachelle, I know during my lecture, I can tell when my lecture sucks because I watch your body language. See, everybody's attuned to body language because during my entire college tenure, I was known, always, sat on the front row, always up front, soaking up all the knowledge, all the education, each and everything that my professors were saying. Absolutely loved college. All of my experiences in college were just awesome. And so if I'm focused, if I'm driven and I'm focused and I love learning, as this professor pointed out, I tend to just kind of sit there and take notes, just copious notes, and just on the edge of my seat. But then there would be instances, and it's kind of funny when somebody points something like this out to you. It's just kind of funny. And so, but if I'm sitting here staring off into space, or flipping through my book, or doodling, or something like that, or doing something else off to the side, it was very, very obvious. And my professor said I always could tell, and I always knew I could read your body language and tell, when I needed to shift gears or try a different approach or whatever. So I'm an easy person to read. I mean, of course, I'm an open book, but I've always been an easy person to read. But just recognize that most people are not like that. Most people, you may have to kind of watch. You may have to kind of, again, watch and look for patterns. And think about that. When you say, like, watch for patterns, think about this. A very simplistic way, and another way I could say this is, okay, what do you expect from people? What do you expect from a spouse? What do you expect from a significant other? What do you expect from a child, a friend, a neighbor? Okay, these are based on previous repeated experience with that person. Okay, when so-and-so comes home, the first thing he does is X. Or when she gets to work the first thing in the morning, this is exactly what she tends to do. Okay, we are able to make those statements about people based on patterns. You know, they don't necessarily have to come in and make this big announcement of what they're doing at that particular moment. You can watch them and you can observe, and you can also, you know, kind of draw conclusions based on what you see and what you've observed in any given situation. And I assure you, patterns are huge, and they help us determine perhaps when there's a deviation from pattern. Perhaps say you're walking into a convenience store, and this is some body language kind of insight from a personal safety standpoint. But say you're walking into a convenience store, you just pump some gas, you need to go in and pay for it, and you walk in, and you notice there's a couple people in line, and one of the guys, say you could be in Louisiana in July, and so the heat index is going to be over 100. It's highly likely. And so say, okay, the heat index, it's super hot outside, and the second person in line is nervous and jittery and is looking around, and they have on a long trench coat and a brim hat, looking around nervous, okay? And so that type of, okay, the pattern that we would expect, it's summertime, people are going to dress, you know, cooler, particularly in hot climates, you know, have some shorts or short sleeve shirts or some lighter clothes. And you see this person, and that is a deviation from the pattern. That is a deviation from the norm. And so when you see that person, you know, again, from a personal safety standpoint, and you'll hear stories where people kind of their intuition told them, and your intuition in terms of helping you observe patterns and kind of decipher and really kind of understand patterns is so important. If you look at that person and your intuition is saying something's not right, okay, wait, why does that guy have on a trench coat and it's 100 degrees plus outside? What's going on here? Okay, and then oftentimes you'll hear the story, people will say, something just wasn't right, so I immediately left. He was nervous, he was looking around, he was jittery. And then that person, and you hear these stories all the time, they turn on the evening news, and that particular store was about to get robbed at that particular moment. And that person just happened to read that body language and recognize that's a deviation from the norm. Okay, when in any situation, whether you're in the workplace, or whether you're just kind of out somewhere shopping, you know, when people are nervous and jittery, those are things you pick up on. Okay, when perhaps you go to a certain place at a certain time and you change the time, and somebody comments to you like, okay, I noticed something's different. I noticed, okay, did you, whatever, are you coming at a later time? What's up with that? And so that person has noticed patterns. In my gym this week, a good example of patterns, how people pick up on patterns. This past Monday here, at the gym, I'm on it. I'm happy to report I actually was interrupted on a different machine than the adjustable pulley, which is the classic machine of my interruptions at that gym. But anyway, this guy comes up to me. I was actually on the assisted dip chin machine. I'd actually kind of put my water bottle and my towel right next to it, put my towel down next to it, and was getting ready to, do a few sets. And this guy comes up to me and says, "Are you feeling okay? You're not feeling well today, are you?" And I, excuse me, and I kind of gave him this look. Like, who are you? I don't know you. Why are you wasting my time with nonsense? Again, the nonverbals communicate a lot. And so once I gave him that look, I think it kind of, I don't know, but he rebounded. He was able to kind of say, well, the reason why I'm asking is because I always see you in here dancing and you lift my spirits and help me get motivated. And I was just wondering because you have no movement today and I assume that you must not be feeling well. Okay, perfect example. And of course I launched into a little mini pep talk on my role here is to work out, not to motivate other people, not to provide a performance for anyone. So it's up to him to lift his own spirits and don't look to me or anyone else in the gym to make that happen. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, with the body language, see, that's a perfect example. You know, when people see me out somewhere and they recognize me or whatever, they'll say, you're that dancing lady from the gym, or you're that lady from the gym. Okay, patterns. People notice patterns. And so recognize in your own life, okay, with those you love and those you deal with, people are watching and they notice patterns. And when there's a deviation from patterns or something, again, something changes in their mind, they're thinking, what happened? Or, you know, what changed or what's going on? And you do the same thing, but it all starts with body language. I didn't have to walk in there and hold up a sign and say, oh, I'm not feeling well today. You know, or I didn't have to go around kind of telling random people, I'm not feeling well today. I'm not feeling well today. My body language, again, because I'm so easy to read, my body language reflects it. It reflected it, particularly this particular Monday. So recognize, I want you to pay attention to the patterns, okay? I have a sales background, so I'm just naturally inclined and in tune to, as I mentioned before, is to read body language, piece things together without things being said, without things being done. It's amazing because, again, I'm very good at kind of honing in on patterns and recognizing patterns in people and situations. And we all are. We absolutely all are. And so what I want you to do is just recognize your own potential, your own ability. Like you may say, well, Rachelle, I've never worked in sales. I've never been in a situation where I've had to read body language. I don't feel like I kind of know what's going on. And of course, as I mentioned, there's plenty of different tools that you can utilize to do that. But recognize that we all pay attention to cues. We all pay attention. When that friend is all of a sudden kind of quiet, that person doesn't have to outright tell you, I'm really just in a bad mood today, or I'm really hurt and sad. You pick up on it. So I just want you to recognize that you have that potential. You have that ability to recognize body language. You have the ability also too, and you are, whether you want to or not, giving off cues and signals that non-verbally communicate to people how you truly feel. and understanding that body language can kind of save you some time from some embarrassment and from some, kind of misunderstandings and things like that. But I want you to recognize that body language is so important, whether you're interviewing for a job, anything, any endeavor. I mean, just body language is huge. It's so important that you recognize, understand the cues, and perhaps even sometimes adjust your strategy and kind of take a different approach, or, perhaps kind of, strengthen an argument, not an argument, but, some type of position or persuasive situation that may be going on. You may be trying to persuade someone to buy something. You may be a salesperson, okay, and you need to perhaps strengthen your argument of why that person needs to buy your product or service. Okay, even hypothetically, you can drop me into any gym tomorrow morning. Say hypothetically, I don't know, some company came out with a new version of gym shoes, and they say, well, okay, Rachelle, we want you to spend 2 days in these gyms selling these shoes. Okay, you can drop me into any gym with these shoes and ask me to go sell. And how would I do that? And how would any salesperson, particularly those with a lot of tenure and those who've experienced success in sales, first thing that person's going to do is stand back and evaluate body language. All right, so I can walk into any gym and just evaluate body language and formulate my strategy based on what I'm observing. No one has to come to me to say, this is my motivation for being here. This is why I'm working out. This is why I'm on this machine. This is how I feel about my life right now. I'm happy, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable. I'm utilizing this gym as an escape to kind of get away from the reality of the nonsense I have to deal with every day. That is all in body language, and I can pick that up very quickly. I could observe someone for 60 seconds and quickly approach that person with anything and try to sell it. But it's all based on body language. And recognize salespeople, where you're out buying a car, when you're buying a house, when you're buying a lot of things, just recognize that body language and your cues that you're sending off are something that salesperson is going to pay particularly close attention to. And that's going to help him or her strategize and how to best make that sale. So just kind of understand that. But body language, body language, body language. Continue to learn, as I stated before, continue to grow, continue to leverage the power of body language to help you be more wise and more successful in your life. So thanks so much for your time. Make it a wonderful day.